Welcome to the deep dive, where we take a stack of dense sources, technical announcements, internal research papers, market analysis, and we really try to carve out the fundamental insights you need.
And today's mission is, well, it's massive.
It really is, almost cosmic in its scope. We are unpacking a technological shift so fundamental, it's literally changing the definition of the data center.
And it's all symbolized by one powerful, resonant name, Rubin.
Right. The documents we've been going through, they really show this major philosophical pivot in the industry.
It feels like we've crossed a threshold. We've moved past what we've been calling the era of models.
Which was all about making LLMs bigger and smarter.
Exactly. That era, it culminated with the Blackwell architecture. But
Right.
We're now entering what the sources call the era of machines that manufacture intelligence.
So this deep dive is going to dissect everything, the hardware, the software, and the really profound historical inspiration behind NVIDIA's new Rubin platform, which they just announced at CES 2026.
And the core thesis here, the one big takeaway that ties every single component together, is that this new AI landscape is defined by its infrastructure.
Not just the algorithms anymore.
Not just the algorithms. We are not just looking at a faster chip. We're examining a total system rebuild, a ground-up redesign, all of it explicitly engineered to support the rise of agentic AI.
And that infrastructure shift, it has this really profound declaration at its heart.
It does. If you look at the source material, NVIDIA's most explicit statement is that the data center itself is no longer a collection of computers.
It is the computer.
It is now the computer.
Yeah.
And their argument is that intelligence can't be a product of these bespoke one-off experiments anymore. It has to be produced at industrial scale.
Like utility.
Exactly like electricity or steel, predictably, securely, continuously, turning cognitive capability into an essential utility. And that is the foundational concept behind the entire Rubin architecture.
Okay, let's unpack this. When the data center becomes the computer, that implies a level of co-design, a tightness between components that, traditional cloud clusters just couldn't achieve.
Right, where you're just plugging in components from different vendors. That model is over.
So before we dive into the silicon, which is incredibly dense, we absolutely have to talk about the inspiration behind the name.
It is so much more than a marketing choice. It's essential symbolism. It's a nod to exposing the unseen.
And that's Vera Rubin.
Naming this foundational production-scale architecture after Vera Florence Cooper Rubin is a statement. She was the astronomer whose meticulous work over decades gave us the first truly compelling quantitative evidence for dark matter.
The sources say the naming is apt because she exposed the invisible mass-shaping galaxies.
And this architecture is designed to expose and harness the invisible forces shaping AI today.
The hidden enemies.
The hidden enemies. Things like memory movement overhead, latency, interconnect bandwidth starvation, all the power smoothing issues. Things that kill efficiency at scale.
I find that connection just so compelling. It's a powerful metaphor for the ambition here. Solving problems that everyone knew existed, but couldn't really quantify or design around effectively.
Right.
But let's delve into Vera Rubin's life. Her journey itself speaks volumes about overcoming the systemic hurdles of her era.
She was born in 1928 in Philadelphia to Jewish immigrant parents.
Well,
Her father, Philip Cooper, was an electrical engineer, and her mother, Rose Applebaum, was deeply involved in mapping stars.
and the sources paint this beautiful picture of her early fascination.
They do. When her family moved to Washington, D.C., her journey began, in the most accessible way possible, with the night sky viewed right from her bedroom window.
And she built a telescope with her father.
A simple one, yes. That window was effectively her first observatory. This wasn't abstract theory. It was hands-on observational science from the very beginning, rooted in engineering and just pure curiosity.
But that passion immediately ran into the institutional biases of the time.
Oh, absolutely.
And we see that reflected in that just truly frustrating detail. A high school guidance counselor flat out told her to pursue art instead of science.
Which she entirely ignored, thankfully. It shows that early refusal to accept limitations set by others.
It really speaks volumes about the determination required just to pursue her field. By 1948, she had her bachelor's in astronomy from Vassar.
And get this, she was the only astronomy major in her class.
The only one. That must have been a lonely path.
Incredibly so. And this leads to what the sources call a striking irony of history, the barriers she faced at Princeton.
Despite her talent, her education, Princeton just wouldn't admit women to its graduate program in astronomy.
It's unbelievable. And that wasn't a minor hurdle. It was a policy that stayed in place until 1975.
75. So she was blocked from one of the world's leading centers for her field just because of her gender.
But she wasn't stopped. She pivoted. She went to Cornell for her master's, where she studied under legends like Richard Feynman and Hans Bethe.
And even her master's thesis was controversial for the time.
Remarkably so. She proposed that galaxies didn't move randomly, but in a larger, coherent pattern, an idea that was just way ahead of its time.
She then got her PhD in 1954 from Georgetown, studying galaxy clustering under George Gamow.
And it's crucial to note that she did all of this while raising a family. She married the mathematician Robert Rubin, and all 4 of their children became scientists.
That's an incredible detail. It's a real-world counterpoint to that terrible advice she got in high school. It shows that ambition and family are not opposing forces.
It really became the ultimate proof of her advocacy. And her career just accelerated once she started breaking those institutional barriers. In 1965, she joined the Carnegie Institution's Department of Terrestrial Magnetism.
As its first female staff scientist.
And that same year, she became the first woman officially allowed to observe at Palomar Observatory. A huge, hard-won institutional change.
And Palomar is where the tools finally met the genius.
Exactly. She collaborated with an instrument specialist, Kent Ford, and his advanced spectrographs gave her the precision data she needed to move from hypothesis to solid proof.
Setting the stage for one of the greatest scientific discoveries of the 20th century.
The monumental measurements began in the 1970s, and she started with the Andromeda Galaxy. This is the core of her discovery, and it all begins with a clean, quantifiable violation of the simplest expectations of physics.
Okay, let's make sure we clearly define that violation for you, the listener, because this is the moment Newtonian physics just sort of blinked.
Right.
What was the expected rotation pattern of a galaxy based on what we can see?
Okay, so based on the visible mass, the stars, the gas Newtonian physics dictates a very specific pattern. Stars near the center should orbit really quickly, pulled by all that mass.
Makes sense.
But as you move farther out, the stars should experience less gravitational pull because the visible mass drops off, so their orbital velocity should decrease. A lot. Just like the outer planets in our solar system orbit the sun much slower than Mercury or Venus.
So if the galaxy were just the stuff we can see, the edges should be moving slowly.
Very slowly. But Rubin's observations revealed something completely different. They just overturned that expectation entirely.
What did she see?
She observed that stars orbiting near the visible edges of galaxies were moving just as fast as the ones near the center. The rotation curve didn't drop off, it was flat.
The sources use that great analogy. It's like cars on the outskirts of a city speeding along at highway velocity with no extra fuel.
Exactly. They just shouldn't have had the gravitational pull necessary to maintain that speed without just flying off into intergalactic space.
So the only physical explanation, if the laws of physics were to hold, was that there had to be some massive unseen force.
Undeniable. The only conclusion was that galaxies must contain vast amounts of invisible mass, providing that extra gravity. This unseen substance is what we now call dark matter.
And her measurements provided the decisive evidence for Fritz Zwicky's hypothesis from the 1930s.
Right, it moved it from speculation to scientific consensus.
The implications are just staggering. Her data showed that the visible universe, everything we can see, all the stars, planets, gas, makes up only about 15% of the total matter in the universe.
The remaining 85% is dark matter. The visible cosmos is basically a shadow of the invisible structure that's holding it all together.
She truly redefined reality. And beyond dark matter, her legacy includes co-discovering the Rubin-Ford effect, and she published over 150 papers.
She was a massive mentor, too. Her lab was like a scientific nursery for future astronomers.
The recognition she got was immense, but it was incomplete. She received the National Medal of Science in '93, the Gold Medal of the Royal Astronomical Society in '96.
And she was the first woman to receive that since 1828.
Incredible, yet the sources all highlight the same frustrating issue, the Nobel Prize.
Yeah, her failure to receive a Nobel is widely seen as one of the great oversights in modern science. It's a common theme, especially for women in science, where institutional recognition lags decades behind the actual impact.
But history eventually caught up. The Large Synoptic Survey Telescope was renamed the Vera C. Rubin Observatory in 2020.
And she was honored on a U.S. quarter in 2025. Rightly so.
And we can close this part of the deep dive with her powerful quote, which really encapsulates her life's work. "There is no problem in science that can be solved by a man that cannot be solved by a woman."
It's the perfect bridge to the Rubin platform, which is designed to tackle these huge structural problems that were previously thought too complex or costly to solve efficiently.
So let's make that jump. This is where it gets really fascinating, both structurally and strategically. We're moving from the cosmos to computation. Just as Vera Rubin exposed the invisible architecture of the universe, NVIDIA is exposing and rebuilding the invisible architecture of the data center.
And the sources draw this incredibly sharp contrast between the last generation, Blackwell, and the new Rubin platform. This isn't just an upgrade, it's a deep, structural, generational leap.
This contrast is really the philosophical core of our deep dive.
It is. The shift from Blackwell to Rubin is the moment the industry realized the challenge wasn't about brute force anymore, not just more speed or more parameters, but about how intelligence is manufactured and delivered affordably.
And the sources use these really compelling metaphors to illustrate the difference.
They do.
So let's start with Blackwell. The sources call it the steam engine of modern AI. What was its focus?
Blackwell's philosophy was all about scaling the model. The big challenge of its time was training those massive trillion-parameter LLMs, enabling multimodal generative AI. It was all about dense computation.
So it was pure power.
Pure power. It delivered up to 30x performance gains over H100 through computational density. Blackwell's goal was to build the biggest, most powerful brains humanity had ever conceived. It was the age of maximum acceleration.
And now the Rubin philosophy. It's described as building the assembly line, the factory floor for thought.
Right. Rubin shifts the focus from the brain to the entire body, the whole system. Its core premise is extreme co-design across everything: compute, memory, networking, security, power, orchestration.
So the goal isn't just peak performance in a lab anymore.
No, the goal is intelligence manufactured at industrial scale, predictably, securely, continuously, like steel or microchips. Rubin builds the efficient, reliable, scalable factories that mass-produce intelligence.
That distinction building brains versus building factories is key to understanding the economic shift here. The brute force approach, the steam engine, it just hit a wall.
It did, especially when it came to practical, low-latency deployment. The workloads driving this new structural change are precisely the areas where raw compute alone just bottlenecks and becomes prohibitively expensive.
So what are those new workloads?
Well, Blackwell, which was optimized for dense training, it struggled to sustain efficiency in 4 major areas. First and foremost is agentic AI.
Which needs multi-step reasoning, planning, tool use.
Exactly. And that requires sustained, predictable, low-latency performance, not just peak training speed.
That makes perfect sense. An agent that has to wait 5 seconds every time it needs to think about its next step is useless. What's the second bottleneck?
The second is the architectural shift to mixture of experts models, or MOE.
Right, where you only use parts of the model at any given time.
Right, sparse activation. But this places extreme, instantaneous demands on communication efficiency and memory bandwidth between the chips. If that communication fabric is slow, the entire model just stalls.
And the third bottleneck, long context, is crucial for sophisticated reasoning, isn't it?
Yes, long context inference is essential for understanding complex documents. Traditional systems, their throughput would just collapse as context windows expanded because of the massive demands on the key value cache memory.
That would cripple real-time reasoning.
Completely. Rubin is architected specifically to prevent that collapse.
And the fourth area bridges AI back to its roots in high-performance computing, in HPC.
Yes, the AI-HPC convergence. Rubin is explicitly designed to merge high-fidelity simulation, for drug discovery, climate modeling, and deep learning into a single computational fabric.
Unlike older architectures that were really skewed towards low-precision AI.
It's exactly. Rubin offers meaningful FP32 and even FP64 matrix performance through emulation, making it a true bridge between the two disciplines.
This all sounds less like a technical upgrade and more like an economic realignment. The sources aren't prioritizing peak FLOP's theater. They're focused on production economics.
That's the core of it. If this is a factory, the economics have to be structural.
So how big are the economic gains against the Blackwell generation?
The gains are genuinely structural. They change the whole total cost of ownership calculation for intelligence production. The critical metric is the cost of using the AI, which for agents operating 24/7 is paramount. Rubin delivers up to 10x lower inference cost per token.
10 times. That's the number that enables this silicon workforce idea to move from a theoretical possibility to an actual corporate budget line item.
Right, and it shines brightest in interactive, reasoning-heavy agentic AI. The sources cite internal tests with models like Kimi K2 thinking, running with huge context like 32K input, 8K output.
So these are models that have to read a huge document and then generate a long, nuanced action plan.
And previously, the cost of running that continuously was crippling. The 10x reduction makes that continuous cognitive labor economically feasible.
But I have to challenge this a bit. If the chips themselves are more complex, requiring more exotic materials and packaging, and we know Blackwell was already a premium product, how does this TCO calculation hold up for, say, a smaller startup or a second-tier cloud provider? Is this only for the hyperscalers?
That's a vital question, and the source material counters this by emphasizing system-level efficiency. While the initial capital expenditure, the CapEx, per chip is still high, the savings come from the operational expenditure, the OpEx.
How so?
Because the Rubin architecture uses such superior networking and memory management, it dramatically reduces the number of components you need to get the same throughput.
Give me that training example again.
Okay, so take a massive 10 trillion parameter MOE model, a job that might require a gargantuan 64,000 Blackwell GPUs and months of runtime, can be done with roughly 1/4 the GPUs.
So around 16,000 Rubin GPUs?
Exactly. And that reduction in GPU count translates directly into immense savings in racks, networking, power, and physical footprint. The efficiency gain offsets the chip cost, making industrial scale achievable at a manageable TCO, even for smaller cloud providers like CoreWeave, who are huge customers.
So the theme is shifting from burst speed, which generates heat and wasted cycles, to sustained throughput and system-level efficiency.
It's moving from a high-performance drag race to a reliable 247 utility company.
Precisely. And the efficiencies are holistic. Beyond inference costs, we're seeing 2x to 5x gains in memory capacity, bandwidth, and overall power efficiency. Blackwell was about acceleration. Rubin is about industrialization.
Okay, we've established the philosophical and economic shift. Now let's go deep into the factory floor itself. The sources stress that Rubin is not a collection of parts. It's a tight 6-chip co-design, architected to behave as a single organism.
Right, and the flagship system that brings this all together is the Vera Rubin NVL72.
This rack-scale supercomputer functions not as 72 separate systems, but as one single, massive, liquid-cooled machine. This is the foundational unit, the assembly line of the AI factory.
What are the key numbers that define the raw power and data flow of that NVL72 rack?
The configuration is tightly integrated. 72 Rubin GPUs and 36 Vera CPUs. The raw computational muscle delivers a staggering 3.6 EFLOP PS of NVFP4 inference performance
3.6 exaflops.
in a single rack. And to fuel that compute, it manages 1.58 petabytes per second of HBM4 bandwidth within the rack and 1.6 petabits per second of scale-out networking bandwidth for communication between racks.
That scale of bandwidth is specifically designed to eliminate the bottlenecks that crushed those long context and MOE models before.
Exactly. But beyond the sheer power, the sources really emphasize the practical engineering. How do you just keep the lights on?
So how is the NVL72 structurally better than its predecessor, the GB200, in that regard?
The improvements are all about industrial reliability and serviceability. It uses a more modular, cable-free tray architecture.
That sounds tidy.
It's more than tidy. It enables 18x faster assembly and service. If a component fails, a technician can swap out a tray quickly without debugging a mess of tangled cables.
And it has second-generation RAS engines?
Yes. Reliability, availability, and serviceability. They provide predictive fault detection. If a memory module starts showing signs of instability, the system flags it for maintenance before a catastrophic failure. That enables zero downtime maintenance, which is non-negotiable for a utility-grade factory.
And security is built into the physical structure.
Absolutely. Third-generation confidential computing.
Right.
It includes rack-wide encryption across the CPU, GPU, and all the NVLink connections. Uptime, serviceability, security, they're not add-ons. They're part of the definition of performance itself.
Okay, let's look at the 6 chips that make up this organism, starting with the brains, the Vera CPU and the Rubin GPU. How does the NVIDIA Vera CPU function as the conductor of this massive system?
The Vera CPU's role is that of the quiet, hyper-optimized orchestrator. It is not a general-purpose processor. Its job is laser-focused on agentic reasoning, deterministic data movement, and guaranteeing system determinism.
So it's making sure all 72 GPUs and the whole ecosystem act in perfect, predictable unison.
That's its entire purpose.
And what's the specific hardware that makes it so specialized for that role?
It's built around 88 custom Olympus cores, which are ARM v9.2 compatible with 176 threads. But crucially, its design prioritizes predictable, low latency, and coherent memory sharing over just raw clock speed.
And its connection to the GPU via NVLink C2C is key here.
It's everything. It allows the CPU and GPU to treat their memories as a single unified address space. This provides an astonishing 65 terabytes per second of coherent CPU-GPU bandwidth.
65 terabytes. So that erases the traditional boundary between host memory and accelerator memory.
It completely erases it.
Yeah.
In the NVL72, these CPUs collectively contribute 54 terabytes of LPDDR5X memory, which acts as a secondary cache pool that the GPUs can instantly access without expensive data copy operations.
So the Vera CPU is basically donating its memory and its precise control to the GPU network.
Precisely. It's the system's brain that handles the data choreography for multi-step agents.
Now, moving to the brute force engine, the Rubin GPU. If Blackwell was the culmination of the transformer era, Rubin is described as its industrialization. What's the scale here?
The ripple is immense. A staggering 336 billion transistors across 2 compute dies. That's about a 60% increase over Blackwell.
But the core innovation for AI is the new transformer engine.
A third-generation transformer engine with hardware-level adaptive compression.
Okay, let's stop there. What does hardware-level adaptive compression actually mean in practical terms for someone running these workloads?
Think of it like a smart zip file for computation. For tasks like inference, especially those long reasoning chains that agents use, you often don't need the highest floating point precision. The engine dynamically trades precision, say from 16-bit down to NVIDIA's specialized 4-bit NVFP4 format, for huge gains in bandwidth and energy efficiency.
So it only uses the precision it needs for the current task.
Exactly, which is absolutely crucial for reducing the operational cost of continuous, inference-heavy agentic AI.
So the key isn't just peak speed, but efficiency in that low-precision domain.
Yeah.
And what does this enable in terms of raw performance?
Per GPU, we're looking at 50 PFLOPS of NVFP4 inference and 35 PFLOPS of NVFP4 training. But the memory is the real game changer.
How so?
The capacity jumps to 288 gigabytes of HBM4 memory per GPU, supported by 22 terabytes per second of memory bandwidth. That bandwidth alone is nearly 3x Blackwell's, which directly solves the communication bottlenecks that plagued MoE models.
And it still has a nod to the HPC crowd.
Yes. Despite being optimized for AI, it blurs the line with HPC by offering meaningful FP32 and even FP64 matrix performance via emulation. Scientists working on traditional simulations aren't left behind.
So we have the brains and the accelerator, but for a factory to work, information has to flow instantaneously. This brings us to chips 3 and 6, the communication and circulation systems.
The nervous system of the rack.
Let's start with the NVLink 6 switch.
NVLink 6 is the architectural answer to the MoE communication bottleneck, where multi-model systems often just stall, waiting for data. It delivers a colossal 3.6 terabytes per second of bidirectional bandwidth per GPU.
And that enables true all-to-all communication across the entire 72 GPU rack.
With uniform, predictable latency. This is where the source says networking stops being mere plumbing and starts being active computation.
How does the network itself become a parallel processor?
Through integrated Sharp in-network computing. Sharp doesn't just route data. It performs collective operations like the critical all-reduce needed in large-scale training directly inside the network fabric.
So it bypasses the need to move the data all the way back to a GPU compute and send it out again.
Exactly. By computing in the network, Sharp cuts communication traffic volumes by up to 50%, dramatically increasing speed and efficiency. It's the network operating as an active computational organ.
That's a fundamental change in how large models scale. Now, for the external connections, the circulatory system connecting thousands of racks, we have the Spectrum 6 Ethernet switch.
Spectrum 6 completes the picture. It's designed specifically for the unique, bursty traffic patterns of AI, offering a massive 102.4 terabits per second per chip using co-packaged optics and silicon photonics. This is crucial for building those massive AI superfactories.
And what are the efficiency gains over traditional Ethernet for these AI workloads?
The optimization provides clear gains. The sources detail 5x power efficiency, 10x reliability because of reduced cabling, and critically, 3x faster job completion for those demanding all-to-all workloads. It ensures the high-speed data from NVLink 6 doesn't just crash into a slow external network.
We've covered thinking and communicating. Now we have to cover integrity and resilience. For a factory operating at this scale, processing sensitive data for multiple clients, trust and security are non-negotiable.
This is where the ConnectX-9 Super NIC and the Bluefield 4 DPU come in. They are the system's immune system.
Let's start with chip number 4, the ConnectX-9 Super NIC. The traffic cop.
Its role is to handle the chaos of bursty AI traffic in massive scale-out workloads. It provides 800 gigabits per second per port and includes key security components like hardware-enforced tenant isolation.
And why is that isolation so critical?
It guarantees that one runaway workload from a single tenant, say an experimental model with a memory leak, cannot poison the entire cluster by hogging bandwidth and introducing latency for everyone else.
And then there's the Bluefield 4 DPU, which the source calls the trust enforcer. What does this specialized processor do?
It's a dedicated offload engine. If the Vera CPU conducts and the Rubin GPU thinks, the Bluefield 4 DPU handles networking, storage, and security tasks entirely separately, freeing up the primary compute resources.
This is critical for cloud providers running confidential multi-tenant environments,
Absolutely, and its breakthrough feature for AI is the inference context memory storage.
which allows different inference jobs, potentially from different mutually distrusting customers, to share massive key-value caches securely.
Exactly. Sharing the KV cache saves immense memory and speeds up parallel inference jobs, but historically, sharing memory meant sacrificing security. Bluefield 4 solves this with hardware enforcement.
And the payoff is huge.
Staggering. The source cites up to 5x more tokens per second for specific multi-tenant inference tasks, along with significant power efficiency gains. It's secure isolation without the performance penalty.
So we've covered the 6 chips, but you mentioned earlier the biggest gains are often invisible on the spec sheet, focusing on efficiency and reliability.
Absolutely. Rubin's most radical advances are in the system plumbing. Take memory management. It uses unified memory addressing. This means the system treats the GPU's high-bandwidth HBM4 and the CPU's LPDDR5X as a single, coherent pool.
Enabling seamless KV cache offloading.
Right. It dramatically reduces GPU data movement and frees up the most expensive resource for pure computation.
And the security is end-to-end.
Truly. It encrypts traffic across the entire fabric: CPU, GPU, NVLink, PCIe. This provides unprecedented protection for sensitive training data.
We also have to talk about the environmental and density challenges. This is a system built for maximum power density. How does Rubin manage the heat?
This is where liquid cooling becomes a mandatory utility. Rubin uses warm water direct liquid cooling at 45 degrees C.
Warm water.
Yeah, by running the coolant at a higher temperature, the heat can be reused or dissipated more easily. When you combine that with rack-level energy buffering, operators can pack 30% more GPUs per megawatt of available power.
So it's not just about faster computation, it's infrastructure designed to run forever while optimizing for the power grid's limitations.
Exactly. And despite this massive architectural overhaul, the sources stress software continuity. They aren't asking customers to start their entire software stack from scratch.
Which is key for adoption.
A necessity. The platform is fully compatible with NVIDIA's existing ecosystem: CUE, CUDA-RNN, NeMo, TensorFlow, LLM. The message is clear. This future requires a scale-up, not a rewrite.
We've built the machine. The factory is operational. Now what does this factory manufacture? It manufactures agentic AI. This is the application that fundamentally justifies the entire structural investment in Rubin.
Agentic AI represents a genuine philosophical break from the reactive AI we've known. For decades, AI was a clever assistant. It reacted to a prompt. Agentic AI is purpose-driven, decisive, and increasingly an actor in the digital world.
So it's not just insight, it's execution, planning, and adaptation.
It bridges the long-standing gap between generating knowledge and performing action. The sources define it as an advanced AI system capable of autonomously reasoning, planning, and executing multi-step actions with minimal human oversight.
And it operates in a continuous loop.
Perceive, choose a goal, select tools, adapt the plan, and learn from the outcome. If traditional AI was a calculator, agentic AI is described as an infinitely scalable junior employee that never sleeps, the emergence of a true silicon workforce.
So let's talk about the change in the workflow question. If I'm interacting with an agentic AI, what's its internal monologue?
It's a shift from prediction to execution. Traditional AI was asked, what's the prediction? Agentic AI asks a chain of questions. What's the goal? What are the steps? What tools do I need? And most importantly, what should I do next if conditions change? That continuous, goal-oriented autonomy is the essence of agency.
The best analogy I found in the sources was the GPS analogy.
It's the perfect distinction. Traditional AI is a GPS that just shows you the route. The agentic AI is the self-driving car that not only gets you there, but automatically reroutes, monitors its own fuel, schedules maintenance, and communicates any changes. It doesn't just inform, it executes.
And this concept, while it sounds futuristic, is already driving massive infrastructure demand. What does the adoption data from late 2025 tell us?
By late 2025, the use case was widespread, though often in early stages. Nearly 4 out of 5 organizations were already using AI agents in some form.
But there's a huge transformation gap.
A massive one. The gap between limited, supervised tasks and full production-scale autonomy. Only about 11% of organizations were using fully autonomous agents in production.
And the sources suggest this is mostly due to organizational inertia and human factors, not just technology.
Exactly. Organizations are struggling to fundamentally rethink how work itself should be structured when the workforce is silicon and scales instantly.
So let's break down the specific use cases driving this investment, starting with customer service.
In customer experience, the agentic AI transforms from a simple chatbot into a comprehensive resolver. It aggregates context across all channels, emails, CRM, chat logs. It autonomously triages requests and, crucially, resolves routine issues end-to-end.
Like password resets, order tracking, basic refunds.
Exactly. It only escalates the truly complex, nuanced, or highly emotional cases to human agents.
And the benefit goes beyond cost-cutting.
It creates empathy at scale. Customers get hyper-personalized, context-aware responses in real time. And for the human agents, the AI takes on the repetitive emotional labor that leads to burnout, letting them focus on high-value problem-solving.
Moving to cybersecurity, the sources say this is an asymmetric war too fast for humans. Agentic AI functions as the corporate immune system.
That's the perfect analogy. Agents change the rules. They provide autonomous, continuous protection. They do real-time anomaly detection, autonomous threat analysis, and immediate, pre-approved countermeasures.
So, isolating a compromised system or patching a vulnerability automatically.
Right. It's a shift from reactive monitoring to proactive autonomous threat hunting. The system behaves less like a firewall and more like a biological immune system, detecting, responding, learning, and strengthening with every single attack.
In software development and IT, the agent emerges as the virtual engineer.
It combines the functions of a junior developer, a site reliability engineer, and a help desk analyst. It can autonomously write, test, and deploy small code features. Crucially, it diagnoses infrastructure failures proactively.
So it predicts and fixes issues before users even notice.
And it can autonomously resolve outages, roll back bad deployments, patch bugs. The impact is time compression. What took teams days now takes hours or even minutes.
And the long-term vision is swarms of agents handling entire projects.
From ideation to deployment with minimal human intervention.
For sales and business operations, the benefit is operational fluidity, eliminating the preparation overhead.
For sales, the agent becomes the tireless research assistant. It automatically compiles prospect research, generates custom deal strategies, drafts follow-ups. In broader operations, it handles real-time updating of CRMs and calendars and can manage procurement or supply chains autonomously.
The idea is that intent flows directly into action.
All procedural friction is removed.
Now, what about a more delicate area like human resources? How do agents operate there?
HR agents operate in the high-volume, repetitive space of screening and coordination. They can conduct initial candidate interviews via natural dialogue, analyzing not just the content but also speech patterns and tone for soft skills.
And then they coordinate scheduling and handle preliminary negotiations.
Right. And the primary benefit, when used with strict ethical guidelines, is that agents can significantly reduce unconscious bias in initial screening. This increases throughput, allowing human recruiters to focus on judgment, culture fit, and leadership potential.
And when you pair these agents with generative AI, they become a complete content creation and analytics engine.
They become end-to-end content factories. You give them a goal, increase engagement by X%, and they autonomously produce tailored articles, reports, scripts. Then they continuously monitor audience response.
And they don't just surface insights, they act on them.
Exactly. They trigger decisions, autonomously run A/B tests, or initiate workflow changes based on real-time data. It becomes a self-optimizing business process.
And finally, a quick summary of specialized industries where this is taking hold.
It's everywhere. In agriculture, agents monitor individual crops and optimize irrigation. In banking and finance, they enhance compliance and manage risk. Insurance uses them for end-to-end claims management, education, for personalized learning pathways, and in areas like disaster response, they act as autonomous coordinators for real-time resource optimization.
This really sounds like the next industrial revolution, but we noted that big adoption gap. What are the key non-technical challenges slowing this down?
The sources are clear. This is a change management challenge. The first barrier is process design. Most workflows are built for humans, with manual handoffs. They had to be completely re-engineered for autonomous systems.
That structural inertia is huge. What's the second barrier?
Trust. Leaders and employees are naturally reluctant to relinquish control. This requires slow, iterative deployment and massive transparency. Third is governance.
Right. Accountability, auditability, ethics. If an agent makes a mistake, who's responsible?
Exactly. And the final hurdle is measurement. You need clear, outcome-driven KPIs to prove the agents are working correctly and safely. Without clear metrics, scaling trust is impossible.
So the consensus is that successful deployments are focusing on low-risk, high-volume tasks first.
Exactly. Repetitive, policy-driven tasks with measurable, auditable results. You build trust there, and then you move up the chain of complexity.
Looking ahead, what's the forecast for this Silicon workforce?
The forecasts are aggressive. By 2028, the sources predict that 15% or more of routine business decisions could be made autonomously by AI agents. This signals a massive reallocation of labor.
And how is that reallocation defined for the human worker?
It's a move upstream. Humans focus on judgment, creativity, strategy, ethics. Machines move downstream to execution, optimization, and coordination. The question is no longer whether machines can think, but whether we are ready to let them act.
This brings us to the strategic implications of building these factories and the timeline. The Rubin platform enters production in the second half of 2026.
And the list of early deployers is the definitive ledger of global infrastructure power. AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft, Oracle, CoreWeave. This isn't a niche product, it's foundational.
And Microsoft announced plans to deploy hundreds of thousands of these chips.
In their own AI superfactories. This cements NVIDIA's position not just as a chip maker, but as the architect of the intelligence economy's factories.
Whoever controls these factories controls the economics of intelligence itself.
The cost, the scale, the feasibility. And this industrialization strategy demands relentless innovation. The annual cadence is now fully established.
So the roadmap is clear.
Rubin will be followed by Rubin Ultra, and then the post-Rubin architecture, codenamed Feynman, is already in development. NVIDIA is always designing the infrastructure for the next generation of AI, 2 or 3 years in advance.
So to synthesize everything, Blackwell showed the world what was possible. Rubin shows what is sustainable.
That's the perfect distinction. Blackwell lit the first massive fire. Rubin builds the regulated, efficient furnaces capable of running indefinitely.
Let's bring this all together with our final synthesis, returning to that concept of the invisible architecture.
The central paradox of Rubin is that its success is based on its disappearance. Just as Vera Rubin showed the universe is shaped by invisible forces, this architecture succeeds because its complexity. The 6 chips, the networking, the cooling all fades into the background.
It becomes an invisible utility.
Right. It turns intelligence production into something reliable and invisible.
The infrastructure revolution that disappears so the agentic revolution can flourish.
Indeed. The source material's final analysis is profound. Rubin is not a flashy invention. It is a foundational machine for an age where intelligence is manufactured, not merely computed. Its impact will be felt everywhere, precisely because it integrates and fades into the background.
Rubin is dark matter for the AI age, the invisible architecture holding the new cognitive economy together. Thank you for diving deep into these complex sources with us.
It was a pleasure to unpack the structural leap this platform represents.
We are building the assembly lines for thought, and they are about to start running 24/7. If the cost of generating insight and, crucially, action drops by 10x, what is the single most important human decision you would automate first using an agentic AI factory? Think about where you need consistency and scale, and what true autonomy looks like in your world until our next deep dive.